This is where we left off last time. We modularized this bootstrap row here, and then we created a reactive where if we click this action link icon, we can select the date, and then based on what the user selects, the visualizations are updating based on the date range. Here we have the sidebar where we have additional visualizations that we can put into the application, and if we're not interested in them, we can just put them back into the sidebar. So for this video, what I want to do is I want to create value cards. The value cards are going to appear here before the visualizations and below the Google Analytics dashboard header, and then there we're going to have 4 value cards. One's going to be the page views, the other one the sessions, the session duration, and then also the bounce rate. And each value card has the actual count or the actual value of the most recent baked date. So if we're connecting to the API later on, when we're pulling the data into the app, it's going to be in real time. So today's date is not going to be fully baked yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to select yesterday's date, which is the most recent baked date, and then displaying the counts for this one. We're also comparing yesterday's date to 2 days ago, and then we're looking if there was a percentage increase or a percentage decrease, and then displaying that in the value cards as well with maybe an icon, an arrow up or an arrow down, and then also coloring it red or green depending if it was an increase or decrease. And then for each value card we're going to have an icon as well. And in this video we're going to create only 2 value cards, and then in the next one we're going to create the other ones. So for this video we'll do the page views and also the sessions. So for this one we're creating an R script and then a function. We'll say views and sessions. The function takes a data frame, and then in here we're going to create the data frame for the value cards. So we're reading in the web data, and then for the web data what we're going to do is we're going to group by the date, and then we're summarizing and summing up the sessions and then also the page views here. So we'll say group by date, and then we're summarizing. So we'll say page views equal to sum page views, and then sessions is equal to sum sessions, and then we'll ungroup the data frame. So this is the output that we get, and right now the dates are selected in ascending order, but we want to arrange it and order it in descending order. So what we're going to do is we're going to say temp, and then from here we're arranging them in descending order by date. And then we're grabbing the actual values first from the most recent baked date. So the first one, if we're connected to the API, is going to be today's date, which is not fully baked. So we always want to select the second row. So what we're going to do, we'll say dplyr and then slice. We're going to get the second row. And then we're interested only in the second and the third column, and then we'll enlist the data frame, and what we get is a named vector of page views and then sessions, and we'll save this as actuals. So what we want to do next is then we want to compare the 2 values from the second and third row, and then just see if there was a percentage increase or decrease, and then also display this value in the value cards. So for this we're doing almost the same thing, except we're going to select the second and also the third row. And then afterwards, what we want to do, we can either use the across function, or I'm still used to the mutate add function. So I'm using mutate add, and then I'm grabbing the page views column, and then also the sessions column. I'm creating an anonymous function with the wiggly sign. And then now we want to calculate the percentage increase and decrease. So in here, we're grabbing the first index. So the dot placeholder, the dot is a placeholder for the columns, so page views and sessions. So we're grabbing the first index, which for page views would be 446, and then we're subtracting it by the second index. And then we're dividing this by the second index and then multiplying it by 100. And maybe let's use the round function as well. Always say round to 2 decimal places. And then if we run this, we'll get this output. So we'll have the page views, there was an increase of 2.3%, and for the sessions it increased 10% from 17th to the 18th. So what we want to do now is we want to select the second and third row again, and then we also want to select only the first. We want to select the second and third column and the first row. So, and here we have the dot placeholder again. So whatever what was or is on the left hand side of the pipe is going to be represented by the dot placeholder. And if you remember, that's how we subset a data frame. So it's just going to be the data frame with the square brackets. The first one is the row 1, and then the second one is the column. So yeah, this is the output that we're getting. And afterwards, we're going to use the pivot longer function from the tidyr package, and we want to pivot everything that's in the data frame. So now the 2 columns became rows, and then the 2 values in here are in a separate column now. So afterwards, as we said previously, we want to display the actual values inside the value cards. So we'll say actuals is equal to actuals. Then we have to choose an icon. So for the page views, we'll say it's going to be the user icon, and then for the sessions, it's going to be the eye icon. Then for the next one, what we want to do is we want to give it an arrow. So we'll have an arrow column where we'll say if else. So if the value is smaller than 0, we have a down arrow, otherwise we'll have an up arrow. The same thing for the color. So we're having an if else in here. If the value is smaller than 0, it's going to be a red color, otherwise it's going to be a green color. And then we also put a percentage sign now after. So we'll say paste 0, we'll say value and a percentage sign. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rename the name column, or the values inside the name column. So we'll say name is equal to page views and also sessions. So if we run this, we end up with this data frame, and each row represents one value card. So we have the value card with the page views, which is going to be here displaying the actual values. Then we're saying what it is, and then we'll have the percentage increase or decrease that's colored by green or red, and then also the arrow that goes up and down, and then besides it we have an icon here. So we'll save this as value cards df. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to create the page views and also the sessions column, the sessions plot. So what we had so far was this R file and the page views function. So if we're going to run this with the web data, then we're getting the page views graph. And what we also want to put in there now is the sessions. And then also a drop-down menu up here where we can select between page views and sessions. So we're going to go back to this function, and then we'll say figure, and then here we'll use plotly. We have the temporary data frame, and then we'll also have the x-axis, which is going to be the date. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it, we're adding lines, so one line is going to be the page views and the other one is going to be the sessions. So in here we'll continue with the figure one and then say add lines. So y is going to be equal to page views, and then we'll have another one, and this is going to be equal to sessions. So if we run this, we're going to get a graph with sessions and page views in one. So the orange one is the sessions one and the blue one is the page views one. So in this add lines function, I'm going to say visible is equal to false. So if I run this again, we'll only get one line in there, which is the page views one. And then I'm going to continue with the plot that we currently have. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove the date one, the date axis title for the x-axis, and then the page views title as well. So what I'll say is x-axis is equal to list. Let's first put it on a domain. We'll say range temp $date and then no title. And then we'll do the same for the y-axis. So y-axis is going to equal to list and an empty string. And then also, because we have we want to have a drop-down menu here, we don't need a legend. So we'll say show legend is equal to false. So if we run this, we remove the titles for each axis, and then we also remove the legend. So now in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say update menus list, put it in another list, and here I'll say buttons is equal to list. And then in the list here, I'll say method is equal to restyle. So we're restyling the y-axis depending on the data we're getting. Now the arguments is going to be, let's say, visible, and then in this list we're going to say true for the page views, but the sessions are not visible. And then the label is going to be whatever we want. We'll call it page views. And then within that list, we have another list where we can copy paste what we have. And then we just have to switch this, say false for the page views, but now true for the sessions. So if we run this, we're going to get the page views here. Oops. Sessions. Let's run it. Page views and then sessions. And then what we also can do is we can just place the drop-down menu somewhere else. So for X, I'm going to say 0.1, and then for Y, I'm going to be 1.25. So this should put this drop-down menu somewhere up here. Let's run it again. And it's going to be here now, above the graph. So we're going to save this as figure. And then we're returning a list. First, we're going to say views sessions figure is equal to fig. And then we'll say views sessions cards is equal to value cards df. So if I run the entire function, view sessions with the web, I think I have to replace web data with df. Run the function again. And then it says, oh, I have to put this in a list. List. Run the function again. Now we get two outputs. One is the plot, and then the other one is the value cards data frame. So we're going to save this as views and sessions. And then we're going to create the value cards now in here. So we'll say create cards, and here we'll have a function. And we have the data frame in there as an argument, but we'll leave it empty for now, and we'll just have a static value card with the values right now, and then afterwards we're replacing them with the actual values in here. So we'll have a division, and then in that division we'll give it a class. So each value card is going to be 3 grids wide. So we'll say 3, and then for medium screen it's also going to be 3, and then for a large screen it's going to take the entire width basically. And then after this we'll have another div, and in that div we'll say class equals panel and panel default. We'll give it also a style, which is going to be display flex. And then after this one we'll have another div. I will say class is equal to panel body, and the style is also going to be flex. Display flex. And then within that panel body, what we'll have is we'll have an h1 header with basically the actual values in here, So we can just say 500, and then we'll say style is equal to, let's give it a black color. Now after this, we're going to have the name. We'll give this an h4 header and just say page views for now. We'll say style is equal to, let's give this color gray. Then the next one is going to be another div where we have the value in here. So I'm gonna say, give it a paragraph, and here let's do the icon first. So we'll say shiny icon, paste 0, and then in here we'll have arrow, and then it's gonna either be up or down arrow. So let's just give it an up arrow, and then in here we'll say 10%. And then in here we'll say style is equal to color, and because it's positive we're going to say green. Okay, and then after this entire div here, we're going to give it an icon, shiny icon, and this one let's just say user and put this in another div. For this one, let's also give it a color, so we'll say style is equal to color gray, and then we'll say font size is equal to 70. Okay, let's save this as create cart. Here we forgot a comma, and here we forgot a comma as well. And here we forgot a comma too. So now if we run create carts, let's see how it looks. Create carts. So this is the HTML that we're generating. So now we have to go inside the app, and then what we're going to do is, what we're going to do in here is we're going to do a render UI before the placeholder. So what we're going to do is we'll say shiny UI output, and here we'll have an output ID. Let's call this value underscore carts, and for the create carts one, we'll say display flex here, and I'm also going to give it width of 100%. Okay, let's save this, go back into here, and then in the server in here we'll say output $ value cards for the output ID. Then we'll use the render UI function, and in here what we're going to do is we're going to just place the create cards function here, and then we'll see what happens. So if we save this and run the application, we'll get page views in here. Here we have the user icon. Now the arrow icon does not exist. Let's go back into here, into page views, now create cards. So if I, oh, okay, I have to put this up one inside the paste function. Let's run this again. So here I have the value card. I have the actual count of the page views from yesterday. It was a 10% increase from the previous day, and here I have the icon. So what I have to do next, I think I have to put this in a div. I'll give it a class of row. Save this, or copy paste this and put this in here. And I'm going to run it again. And yeah, now it's placed now it has a separate bootstrap row for itself. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to go into the create cards function. Now I'm finally placing the data frame in here. Here I have the page views one, and I'm just going to run this again. And what I need to grab is the second element. So I'll just do it by name. I'm going to get the tibble in here. And then for the create cards one, yeah, we can leave it empty for now. We'll put the data frame that we're using in here. Then I'm going to say dplyr. Then we're going to split it. So this creates, so we split it by name. So this creates a list of two data frames. Data frame number one with the page views. Data frame number two with the sessions. And then I'm using per, and then I'm going to map over these data frames. So we're creating an anonymous function. And then we're missing one round bracket. And then I'm going into the division. And now, so the h1 header is going to be the actuals. So what I'll do here, I can say dot x is going to be dot, and dot is the placeholder. So whatever is on the left hand side on the of the pipe is going to be represented by the dot here. So for h1 we'll say dot x actuals, color is gray, page views, we want to change this to name, so either page views or sessions. Then we'll say arrow, we'll substitute this for arrow. Then this is the actual value, percentage increase or decrease, so we'll say value. And then in here we also have separate icons for each data set, so we'll say icon in here. And then in here what we also say, we'll say margin right (10 pixels). And I think that was everything so far. So let's save this and let's run it, and let's call the function. So we're going to get object x not found. So let's see, here I'm missing the dot. Run it again, and now this is what we get. So we get two HTMLs, one for the first data frame and then the other one for the second data frame. So if we save this and then go back into our application, we're going to run the app. And what we'll get now is two data frames, two value cards, one value card with the page views, and then the other value card with the sessions. And we're getting separate values, so the values that were in the data frame, 446 page views and 401 sessions. And yeah, this was everything for this video. So for the next one, what we'll be doing is we are probably going to modularize the cards one, and then we're also adding the session duration over here and also as a plot in here. Oh, and then what we're also going to do, we're going to add the page views and session plots in here as well. And then we're adding the fourth value card, which is going to be the bounce rate, and then also adding this as a visualization inside the app. And again, there's a link in the description below to my blog where you can read up on what we just did today. I'll see you next time.